It is Midweek Extra, it is John Gibbons, we are in association with NordVPN, and I've got Keifer, I've got Jack. Lovely to see you.
Yeah, it's been
How
a while.
are you? I'm all excited, definitely excited to see you, and of course Josh Williams, who we're always very pleased to see as well. And we are in association with NordVPN, and you hear me banging on about NordVPN every week, so I'm going to hand over now to Ben, who was slid in to my Twitter DMs in the week and said give this fantastic NordVPN review. So he says, I've been I'm struggling to speak this morning. I've been holidaying, that's a hard word to say. He's been on holiday, he's been to Thailand, and he put brackets, cracking place, so there we are, have that Zara McDermott. It's fucking brilliant. And he says, during the recent run of fixtures, had a complex plan for watching the games. I was going to get a local sim, then get a monthly subscription to the local broadcaster, etc. It was a fucking train wreck. I heard your voice intonate NordVPN. I mean, that's slightly worrying. But anyway, we'll go with it. And it worked the dream. Super easy to use. Set it up within 5 minutes. And all my home subscriptions worked no problems. Big thanks to TAW for the discount as well. So there we are. I mean, you're off to Germany now, yeah. Jack. You're an international sports superstar, international comedian, everything. You're doing gigs in New York, you're doing table tennis in Germany. NordVPN's the thing for you because, as Ben has very wisely and kindly pointed out there, with just a click of a button, you can change your virtual location and you can be back in the UK enjoying everything that you're paying for over here. So that's one of the many benefits. So if you want to be like Ben, enjoying everything that you can wherever in the world you are, and getting that discount that he pointed out, nordvpn.com/TAW. So there we are. So part one, we're going to talk about Southampton. Part two, we're going to talk about the centre-half situation. And part three, we're going to look ahead to Crystal Palace. But what do you think of the game? Reflections on it? Almost 40 hours on, we'll say that.
Yeah, it's I feel like I watched this exact game every season at this point. Yeah. And we have this exact same chat every season. Yeah. Where like people expect, I think people are eager to see like second strings, third strings, kids get opportunities and that, and then when they all play together at the same time, it looks a bit of a mess. And nobody's in sync. Some of the seasoned pros are a bit like rusty is probably the kind word. So you get over the line, you get the win, but I wouldn't say it was pretty on the eye. Like.
I mean, you say you've seen that game before. I feel like I've seen that game against Southampton before. Yeah. It's all a bit like that, isn't it, Jack? I agree with Josh. You're throwing these teams together, and I wouldn't want anyone to come to any strong opinions on individuals, sort of based on it. Really, listen, if someone really shines, then you want to praise them, of course. But it seems silly to go the other way too negatively when that'll be the one and only time that team ever plays together.
No, definitely. I think I was in the same boat as Josh, of like really excited to see these players like Leone come into the squad, see how he can get into the centre-back situation as well. But yeah, it was difficult to see in the mess that was. This is the squad, this match. Liverpool don't do matches easy this season, we can see that. But yeah, it was definitely an individual performance basis with Chiesa and stuff. And I've never seen Endo do a pirouette and head the ball with the back of his shoulder, but that was
and hopefully we
a
never
highlight for me. Hopefully not, we'll see. But yeah, overall wasn't the best game on the eye, but I think we've got it done in the end.
Got it done, got it through. They're really pretty, those games, but it is about getting in the heart. Minutes in the belt. Minutes in the legs, a win under the belt, something in the hat. It's a lot of positives to take.
Absolutely. I said on one of the pre-match shows the other day that with these kind of League Cup games, they can be really beneficial for the squad players. I mean, I kind of use the example of Gakpo last season when Slot came in. He wasn't in his first choice 11. Obviously, he had Salah, Jota and Diaz on the left at the time. But then
he rescued Jordan Henderson's career, if you want to go all the way back to 2012.
Yeah, exactly. And obviously then Gakpo gets, I think they played West Ham at this stage last year, he gets a few goals there, then he scores at Brighton. And you look at Chiesa, he's a kind of prime example. Not exactly a sliding doors moment, but it's one of those where you think, sadly the injury to Leone has now maybe opened a door for him. But if that wasn't to be the case, he's got minutes now in the next round of the League Cup in the next couple of weeks where he can play, and then if he is needed in the Premier League, or if he does get drafted into the Champions League squad, they are ready. So I think, as Josh said, it was a bit of a mishmash of a team, and Slot said that after 11 kind of players who never played together and probably will never play together again. But the fact is they got through to the next round. It's another home tie, a favourable tie, and that can only benefit Liverpool in the long run of this season.
On your superb Substack, subscribe now. You did 10 minutes on your own on Chiesa. You like him, don't you?
I did. I do like him, yeah. I got a bit of. I get the odd little bit of stick because when we did sign him, I was quite heavy on him in here. And since then, we've seen him like 3 times. So,
that's not your fault. You're not picking the
well,
team.
exactly. But people automatically come to the conclusion that like he must be crap then. And I've seen actual journalists come to that conclusion as well, and it's just not true. He's a good player, like, and I think whenever we see him in a red shirt, he shows bits of what he's about. I think he's intense, he's direct, no messing about with him. He's kind of all business really. There's no like. Fluff is the word I use. No fluff around them. I think a lot of wide players, a lot of forwards, you get that with them, where they seem to be dangerous and they seem to be threatening and they look visually, good on the eye and all that sort of thing. But there's no actual product.
You say he's the anti-Doku.
Yeah, the anti-Doku. Yeah. The example I used in that little 10-minute recording was Pedro Neto.
Okay.
Feels dangerous. Check the numbers at the end of the season. He's got like 3 assists and 1 goal or something like that. And that's just Pedro Neto now. That's just what he's like. People think he's very good and people think he's amazing, but Chiesa's got that product too. Works like a dog, he gets 2 assists in the game and one of them's through pressing, so I just really like him as a player. I'd like to see him more, specifically on the left as well. I think he looks boss on the left whenever he's there, but because he's so versatile, so 2-footed, and we need him in place of Salah in these games. He plays on the opposite side. He looks okay, but he looks better where Gakpo plays, but we've had Diaz there, we've got Rio there now to get minutes. Gakpo obviously is still here. So it's tricky for him, innit? But he's a good player.
I don't think I've seen him on the left for Liverpool at all. We've barely seen it, but he looked really comfortable. And that run that he makes for the second goal is the one of a man who understands that position. He could shoot well on both feet, and that's part of the versatility. Point that Josh makes, and so that obviously helps him get in the team. But versatility is a funny thing, isn't it? It can help you get minutes, and for someone, like Trey Leone, for example, being versatile will help him because it's going to help him. You're more likely to get into the team. But for some players, especially as they get older, it can hurt you a little bit. And we've seen Chiesa either on the right a lot, filling in for Salah the odd time, or we've actually seen him quite a bit up front, and he does okay there, but he's not really built to be a number 9, is he? But on the left, he did look really comfortable, and I enjoyed his whole performance. He was actually popping up a lot in 10. At one point he was just playing 10, but even before we moved him there, he was popping up a lot there, and it was just a really bright performance.
Yeah. No, for me, I love him. I think he's been great. I think he's a victim of Liverpool having such a strong forward dynamic in the team we've got as well. As you say, he's a utility player, can go in different positions, but equally does that harm in the fact that he's probably not the best in any of them positions. Like, he's not first in the team sheet for all them positions in different ways. But I think he ran the show in that Southampton match. I think just by his attitude as well, he loved being on the pitch, he loved being there, he gets the crowd and he understands what it's like to play for Liverpool. And just the selflessness to pass the ball to Ekitike for him to be a dope and take his top off. But I think the whole thing, the way he run, I think he's been amazing, and hopefully he can be a really good player off the bench. Unfortunately, I think he fits into any other team apart from this Liverpool team starting 11 at the moment.
Jack said it, so we've got to talk about the red card. On the scale of Arne Slot to Frimpong, what was your face like when he took his shirt off and you realised he was doing it?
I didn't really. I completely forgot he'd been booked.
I never. As soon as he did it, I was Mike Craig, and I was like, he's going to get sent off. I was Frimpong.
I know there was a brief second where I was like, oh, this is great, and then I was quickly very much like Slot in the background where I was like, what have you done? And the best part was it took Ekitike about 5 seconds, and it was like, why is no one laughing? Why is no one smiling? When it takes the class clown or Frimpong to kind of tell you to rein it in, that's probably when you've taken it a bit too far. But as you say, I mean, he's still young, isn't he? He's obviously come in 23 years of age, he's hit the ground running, he's played really well so far. So I think you kind of forget how young he is because he's made that adaptation to the Premier League and to Liverpool look so easy. I do wonder if there was, part of the reasoning behind it. Slot said after, you don't do that if you score against Southampton, and certainly when you scored a tap-in from 12 yards out kind of thing. But I do wonder if maybe the narrative of like Isak coming on, starting, gets his first goal for Liverpool, and Ekitike's like, hang on, like Amir as well, like don't forget about me. And we've seen he's a confident lad. He's clearly backs himself. He's he's been to top clubs before. At PSG maybe hasn't worked out. He's gone down to Frankfurt, and now he's worked his way back up. So he clearly backs himself. He's obviously now got the most expensive striker in Premier League history to rival for the shirt. But I think that was a little moment of like, it was stupidity, but you'll learn from it. I think Robertson said it after and Slot said it as well. But I just think that was maybe a little thing in his head of like, yeah, I'm here. I'm also going to be the main man. I'm not just going to be kind of drafted out wide to kind of dovetail like Isak or play second fiddle. Like I can be the main man for Liverpool too.
In the recent Woodlands Paddle Trophy, did you whip your shirt off at every point to celebrate a big point?
Do you know what? If I would have, right, I wouldn't have done it against like the worst team in the tournament. that's the worst thing about what he did. Like, Keifer makes a good point there.
He was that? Was it Dan Nico?
Do you know what? this is going out, isn't it?
It is,
It was Poppy Toffee TV, you know. Yeah, and that's not a dig. They were playing for the very first time.
Yeah, you've had a go. It's all for charity.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, that was the worst part about it for me, the fact that he does the Lionel Messi celebration in like the third round of the Carabao Cup, scoring the winner against Southampton. Like I mean, even if he hadn't been booked, he deserved a red card for that. I'm concerned. So
I was gutted to Keifer never took his shirt off. I think he deserved that.
Yeah,
Well, people have started to celebrate tackles, haven't they? Like, you see like defenders now. So maybe that is the next step. You'll see like people like making tackles. Do you know what I mean? Like maybe the next step is Kanati takes his shirt off when he does a great sliding tackle. Maybe that is the thing. Yeah. Listen,
it is awful, isn't it?
It is awful.
Doing,
yeah, it is. It's very what you're doing. It's very what you're doing. Don't do it in Germany tomorrow, Charles.
I'll try my best. I'll look like I can play mixed doubles on my own if I took myself. That's the problem.
it's not big or clever, but at the same time, he's a young guy. We don't want to be too harsh on him. The manager's, been firm, which is good. It's sort of what you want to see. The ideal is get through Saturday, win on Saturday, then everyone forgets about it.
Yeah, I think, looking at it, I was thinking, why has he done it? As soon as I seen it, I think I was like an angry mum with his toddler getting undressed straight away. I was like, get your top back on, Chris. But I think, for me, it shows that he actually does want to rival Isak. He doesn't want to be that player that comes off. He thinks he's that good. And that's what he wants out of strikers. Strikers want to score goals. They want to be the centre of attention. To get the stupidest red card I've ever seen in my life is not the right way of doing it. But I think his attitude to doing that was the right reasons. To do it, as you say, in the Carabao Cup is mental. But like I get the way that why he's done that. He would be one of the marquee signings if we didn't have Isak. He was 80 million. Do you know what I mean? Like he's going to be one of them big strikers. And I think as you said, the Isak goal going in and then him scoring as well is probably just a bit of a I'm still here sort of vibes. And I think it's good and bad really.
It's how I feel when I get to host a free show instead of Neil. Do you know what I mean? When Neil gets taken off, I'm like pointing at me back. Do you know what I mean? Like get on me. So I do get it. I do get it. But like Josh says, you've just sort of got to pick your moments. Any other sort of bright sparks for you?
Yeah, I thought the two new lads. I thought Leone obviously was probably the standout, wasn't he? It was a real shame kind of how his night ended. I thought he was brilliant, and not to jump the boat, but he kind of looked every inch like a Virgil van Dijk successor, didn't he? Just in terms of like how composed he was on the ball, how comfortable he was passing, but also what I really liked is that he didn't jump into challenges. Like there was a few times where obviously like Liverpool shape was all over the shop, and midfielders are far higher up than they should have been. So there was like Southampton players were getting in between the lines, and he kind of just stood up and was like, I'll show you down the line, whatever, or like he backs his ability, backs his strength, backs his athleticism. I thought the goalkeeper Hunter-Spivey was really good as well.
Yeah, I really like him.
Yeah. He's a big lad, isn't he? And I think if I was a Southampton manager, I think the first thing I'd be saying is you've got a new goalkeeper coming to English football, put some crosses in the box, test him, see what he's about. But he came and claimed, I think there was a few corners, early doors, a few crosses, and he just came and claimed them straight away, and he was looking to break and move the ball quickly. So obviously a shame how it ended for Leone, but I thought those two in particular, it shows that Liverpool have done some really good business in the last 12 months, isn't it?
Yeah, on the goalie, just I think the main thing, or one of the main things you look from a goalie is someone who looks comfortable and someone who,
authority.
Yeah, authority, calming. He just looked like he could take anything in his stride, and we didn't see any big saves from him or anything because he didn't necessarily need to make them, or they weren't there to make. But in terms of his presence, in terms of dealing with everything with a minimum of fuss, I would imagine to play in front of as a defender, he's very nice.
Yeah, I watched Man City recently against Arsenal, and obviously Arsenal are really good with set pieces and things like that. And City really benefited, I felt, from having Donnarumma in goal, like 6'6", giant. He just punched everything really. And it felt similar with Mamardashvili. Mamardashvili's 6'6" as well. And he was just claiming a lot. Felt like he had a good penalty box presence, good on the ball as well, decent on the ball. And I remember watching the game thinking like, I think we will be talking about his signing in like 3 years' time, speaking about like that was really underrated at the time. Because if you think of Alisson and like the succession plan there, you know, keeping it going after him is huge, and whoever does take the shirt off him, which probably will be Mamardashvili, the spotlights will be really bright and any mistakes will be highlighted and stuff. So I think Mamardashvili looks to me like a capable successor. You know, he's taller than him, he's good on the ball, he's got that presence, as I've said, the authority and stuff. So, and he's a good age as well.
Yeah.
So I think that's quietly a really, really good signing last year. I think it was something like 30 million, was it? 35 million?
It wasn't a lot, yeah.
Yeah, so good business, mate.
Mikel Arteta this week claimed he had the most attacking goalkeeper in the Premier League, in the world, in the universe, which sounds really good. I'm quite happy to have the one who's massive, who saves stuff.
Yeah. I think we're quite happy to have an actual really good goalkeeper rather than a good centre-back who stands in front of the goal. I think as you just said then, you look at the issues that Man United have had trying to sign a decent goalkeeper, seeing how hard it is to get
they've made it look harder than
they've made it look horrific, it's awful. But I think if you look how hard it is to buy a top-class keeper when you need one, the way we've bought Mamardashvili, and then he looks so imposing, he looks comfortable in that shirt, looks, as you say, brilliant to play, imposing in a goal. He will be the next keeper after Alisson. I think we've already foreseen that from what was going on. I think it's a great sign, as you said, just being underrated, because we don't want to get into a position where we're trying to replace one of the best goalkeepers in the world, and then you can't, because there's not many going around sometimes.
Yeah, you could be scratching around all summer looking for it, end up overpaying, whereas if he's right there, ready to step in, it's just about perfect. In terms of the draw then, you mentioned the home draw before, Keifer. Palace at home feels a bit boring. We play them a lot, you know. We were even playing them this weekend. We're going to come on to talk about that, but it could have been worse. There's some tricky ties in there. You know, there's some big games. It would have been nice to play a Wrexham or a Cardiff or something like that, something a little bit different, but they should go through. Palace, interestingly, Palace only made 4 changes, and I had a look. They played last week, which was a bit confusing when I tried to find the game. I was like, wait, they just had a bye. They played last week. They only made 4 changes, but you'd have thought they haven't started in Europe yet. They hadn't started in Europe yet. By the time that they're playing Europa League and things like that, you'd imagine they'd make more next time. So I actually think playing a team who's also in Europe, albeit a lesser European competition, kind of suits us a little bit, because they'll do the same as us.
Yeah, absolutely. We mentioned it on the show the other day in terms of like the importance of the League Cup, and I think for teams in Europe, it's not a hindrance, but it's certainly a second thought. It's an afterthought, isn't it? Really, and as you say, I'm sure Palace, you know, having this opportunity to be in the Conference League now, they'll be looking to grasp that with both hands, and you know, they haven't got the biggest squad anyway, so to kind of be challenging on you know 2 or 3 fronts would be a difficult ask. So you know, you'd expect plenty of rotation there. Obviously, as I said, it's Anfield as well, which just makes it a little bit easier, especially if you're bedding in young lads as well, or new players. You know, you talk about the goalkeeper and other players who might come in. So I think it's a nice draw for Liverpool, and then all of a sudden, if you get through that, it's the quarterfinals before Christmas, isn't it? And hang on, you're 2 games away from Wembley, so it's an interesting one, the League Cup, and kind of where it ranks in terms of priorities. But I think, you know, when you've got a strong enough squad depth as Liverpool, there's no excuse to kind of not be in the semi-finals, really. I think, and then the momentum that can bring, kind of in the spring when you are going for the bigger trophies, I think it's invaluable, isn't it?
The big disappointment, really, Jack, of the night was the injury to Leone, because he had played so well. You just feel for him, really. You know, he's come out and talked about playing in this magnificent stadium, and he's been patient. He's been training, I'm sure training well, training hard, waiting for this moment. He gets it at Anfield. He couldn't be playing any better, and then to get an injury in a bit of an innocuous way, it just feels so cruel.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I was looking forward to seeing him when the lineup came out. I was really excited to see how he got on. I think, as you say, for him to have this big move to Liverpool, to being touted as the next big player that we've got, to then have the nightmare of a debut that he's had. When I watched it, I was like, oh, he's banged his head. Like, he looked like he had a concussion, and I was like, oh, that's an ACL, innit? Not that I'm an expert in leg injuries, but you know what I mean? Like, I thought it looked like it was a struggle for him. He looked great. He looked like it was what we need at the back, especially with all this gay drama that's going on as well. He looked like
more of that in a minute.
Oh, yeah. He looked like he could be that sort of replacement that we need if something does go wrong with Konate or Van Dijk or whoever at the back as well. But yeah, it was just so difficult to see just from him. I can imagine how hard he worked to get onto the pitch for that match, and this was his opportunity to shine, and unfortunately it's not gone his way, is it?
I can't believe how assured he looked for such a young guy, Keifer, to go on the pitch on his debut at Anfield. You know, I've seen, you know, players, have really tough games in the first one at Anfield in that position. I remember Martin Skirtle's debut, was it? And I was like, who the hell have we bought here? Obviously he goes on to have a good Liverpool career, but to go out there in a changed team, like we mentioned before, and to look as assured, as confident on the ball as he did was... I mean, you can see why they went all out to get him.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you didn't know anything about Liverpool or the players on display, you just watched that game, you would have said that he was one of the more experienced pros, wouldn't you? You would have said that, he wasn't a lad with, was it 17 appearances in Italy last year? You would have said that he was, someone who maybe had a couple of hundred appearances under his belt, and that was just a testament to how good he was. As I said, he was brilliant on the ball, but off it as well. I think his reading of the game was really good, and he just looked... as I say, I talked about the League Cup before and how that can kind of slowly bed players in and get them ready for Premier League games and Champions League games, and it felt like that was going to be the case with Leone. It's just a real shame, really, because it felt like, I thought Joe Gomez struggled in particular as well. I think he was maybe one of the three that Slot alluded to after the game. And then you've got Leone, where it's like, not a changing of the guard, but you think like, well, he could easily kind of take Gomez's place in the pecking order in the next couple of weeks and months, depending on how many games and opportunities are available. And then just to kind of see it all come crashing down like that, as you say, it's not a blood and thunder challenge, is it? It's pretty innocuous, and it's just kind of the worst thing that could have happened for someone that age as well, to move to a new country and be in new surroundings and stuff. But I think the only, let's say positive, but the kind of only reassurance is that I think, there's obviously players at Liverpool, Van Dijk and Gomez, who have been through similar injuries, so you have good people around him to kind of, guide him through that process.
Yeah.
And also I don't think ACLs are as bad as what they once were. I think, with the technology and the sports science that's involved, I think, 10 or 15 years ago, if you had an ACL injury, especially at a young age, it was almost like...
tough to come back
Yeah,
from.
exactly. And even, a few years ago when Van Dijk did his, people, I know it was, a late stage in his career, but people were saying he'll never get back to the level. But, 4 or 5 years on, you'd argue that Van Dijk's obviously probably gone to another level. So I think that's the kind of the reassuring things. He'll be in the best place, he'll have the best care, but it's just going to be a really disappointing kind of 8 or 9 months from now, as he does kind of have to keep his head down and kind of focus. But from what we saw, it's obviously a small sample size, the first 81 minutes, whatnot, but I think there's loads to like.
Well, where does it leave Liverpool? And that is the question, Josh. And Rob Gutman's been on. He's in Portugal, but you can't keep him out the action. He put on Twitter, the Leone news is a kick in the pants. We must make Gahey happen in January, even if it means overpaying. There's nothing Rob won't throw money at to solve. I mean, not his own money.
He doesn't know Liverpool very well if he thinks we're going to do that. Like.
Yeah. What do you think? Is he right?
I suppose, yeah, he is. But I think Liverpool were in absolute like the worst case scenario a few years back, and we didn't even do it then. Do you remember that one, like with Kabak and Ben Davies? We ended up pushing back Kanate and eventually getting Kanate in the summer, which I think long term was a healthy decision, but at the time we did not force it. So it depends if Palace are interested in doing business. It depends if Kanate and Gomez can stay fit. I don't know what it is with this centre-back department, by the way. At this club, mate, honestly. Leone's supposed to be like the, kind of fresh out the oven, no injury history. And he ends up joining Gomez and Matip and, Kanate as like injury, I don't want to say prone because he's not prone yet, but he's like out for the next year or something. It's so annoying. I don't know what it is. It's always the same department, mate. Yeah. It's mad. So it does open the door a little bit for like an Arsenal or a City to gain a little bit of hope, because we now only have 3 and 2 of them are prone to picking up knocks. So it's not good, but I think if by January Endo's played minutes there, or Gravenberch has played minutes there, notice the laugh there, that's when you start thinking about, right, just move Gay forward then. I think that's what like an alpha club would do. I think Real Madrid would do that, for example. So I'd like to think Liverpool would do it, but Palace are a bit of a nightmare, aren't they, when it comes to doing business with them, so tricky.
Yeah, do you think he is the one? Do you think that's how they see him? Is that how you see him? They obviously, he's the one that they went for in the summer. If he is the one that they've identified long term, and especially with Kanate's contract situation, you'd have thought, well, they'll pay the money to get him in January, but you never quite know what they're thinking.
That's the thing. Liverpool aren't known for overpaying players, as you just mentioned, but Gay, he looks a decent player. Obviously, we know he's a good centre-back. Is he one of the world's best centre-backs? He's probably up there, but he's not obviously some of the elite centre-backs we can get hold of, but he will give you a solid performance all the time. He'll be that reassurance that we have off the bench. And I think yeah, we're now in a difficult position because they also know now we're struggling for centre-backs. Leone's injured. We've also not dealt with them well in the transfer window as well with Palace, and it just depends on if they make us overpay as well. We're sort of in a difficult position now by trying to get hold of him, but I would be inclined to say he's probably the best option we can get hold of so far.
Would you be going all out to get him in January?
Yeah, I think so. Obviously, it depends kind of how the land lies in terms of the Champions League and the Premier League and where Liverpool are at. But it's difficult, isn't it? Because it felt like when they didn't get him on deadline day, the power then immediately kind of, although the window had closed, it felt like it was all in Liverpool's hands again. Of like, well, they'll get a free run at him. They can kind of lowball Palace in January, or if not, pick Gay up on a free at the end of the season. But now, obviously, with what's happened the other night, it feels like Palace have regained a bit of that power. And obviously, whatever price Liverpool go in with in January, if they do go in, you can imagine Palace will be saying,
well, Rob's not helping, is he? You know what I mean?
What would you go to though? Out of interest, like, because obviously we've just, what was the deal? 35 and it's just gone. He'll have 6 months on his contract in January, but we need a centre half. So
yeah, I mean, I think the original plan was probably to get him for less than 20 million quid, and whereas I think now, Palace know we're in a bit of a stickier situation. You might have to shake hands on 25 maybe.
And I think
there's no way on earth Liverpool do that.
What do you think they'll pay?
I don't think Liverpool would go above barely above 10.
Really?
If you think of Trent,
yeah, I was about to say,
Real Madrid bid for Trent. They needed a right back at the time.
Yeah.
They didn't go beyond 20, and Trent is a generational right back, really.
Yeah.
Mark Gay is a centre half. Full stop. He's a good player, but that's.
But he's as important. Well, he's probably more important to Palace than he was to than Trent was to Liverpool at that time.
Yeah, and if they're going deep in Europe as well, they'll see a need to keep him. So
you just don't think it'll happen?
I just know Liverpool, mate. I just know Liverpool. I just don't think they'll do it. But hopefully they do. Hopefully they come to a compromise. And hopefully Steve Parish is not doing Pilates again. And hopefully he looks at Mark A and thinks, I kind of owe him money. Because it didn't happen in the summer, and Gay was obviously unhappy about that. He didn't force it through like Isak or like Wisser or whoever, and got stung for it in the end. So you'd like to think they could make it happen, but I'm not sure.
You might need a bit of from the players' side, as Josh says. At the time, at the end of the window, a lot of talk was about Isak and Visser, forcing moves and maybe kicking up a bit of a force. And it was Gay was kind of the model pro, and he didn't get his move in the end. So maybe he might, when the window opens in January, be like, look, I'm not going to miss out, because if he waits to the end of the season, which he might have loads of offers on the table, but what's to say he might not do his ACL in March? It's a short career, and players, we see how easily players can be discarded as just commodities like that. So I'm sure he'll want to get probably the biggest contract of his career as soon as possible. I'm sure the player, if Liverpool are in a good position in the Champions League and maybe advance into the latter stages, he'll be like,
12 points clear at the top of the league. He's thinking it's a full free league winners medal there. Just rock up and take it. Just the easiest one I'll ever get.
Taking his shirt off against Shrewsbury in the third round. But no, I'm sure he'll want to be part of the action. So there might be a bit on his part where he thinks, actually I've got to force this. But I also think, one thing is that Liverpool, we know that when they like a player, they're very kind of hell-bent on them. I mean, as Josh says, Canate, they made sure they waited for him. You go further back, you look at Van Dijk, they missed out on him in the summer of 2017. They could have gone and got other options.
You'll have to watch Lovren at Spurs.
Yeah.
We remember.
And the rest of them, but they waited, didn't they? And they were patient. They could have got other options, but they were patient. So the thing is, I suppose, if they earmarked Gay last summer as the one they want, surely they've got to put their hands in their pockets and say, like, he's a top target. They've obviously done the due diligence. They've done all the... I mean, the lad did his medical. I mean, he's literally...
Did a goodbye video. Yeah, we've all seen it. Yeah, it was emotional.
It was teary, that was.
Oh, yeah, even though it didn't happen. I was like, I got upset. He's not even left. But, that's the streaks they pull. But... I mean, does he still want to come to Liverpool? That is the question, Jack. There's Real Madrid chat. There's been plenty of it. There's a story today from Footy Insider 24/7. He says Mark Gay privately blames Liverpool. I mean, it's not that private. It's out here. Privately and now publicly, it seems, blames Liverpool for his deadline day move collapsing, with the defender and his camp feeling that the club delayed their move and then spent too long haggling over the fee and terms of the deal. I mean, it is just... I don't want to disparage the people of Footy Insider 24/7. I'm sure they're doing a terrific job, but people could put things into places, can't they, that suits them. I've heard Real Madrid are quite good at that sort of thing. Maybe even Palace, agents talk or whatever. There's various ways to things can find their way into esteemed publications like Footy Insider 24/7. But I think, you know, we can't just assume that, like, you know, Keifer mentioned the free run there. It might not happen. A few other people might start going, and then if he thinks, well, he might think, well, if Liverpool really wanted me, they'd sort it in the summer.
Yeah, there's definitely a few ways to look at it, isn't it? I think, as you say, the model professional didn't kick up a fuss, wanted to do it the right way, and it never worked out. I think if I was him, I would go to Liverpool. I think.
I would as well.
But I think for him, just being an English club, Premier League champions, that's his big move. Realistically, is he going to be week in, week out in that centre back position at Real Madrid? I'm not sure. So I think at Liverpool, he would be a good player that we could have, and I think the medical and all that sort of stuff. We must have been really close to doing it, and for him, I'm just hoping it all goes well on his end. And yeah, I definitely think he should sign for us.
Liverpool have been quite good at these relationships, haven't they? And getting a player to agree to come, and then them sticking with it. And so, if you look, you know, I went down a bit of an Isaac rabbit hole before and was looking at, you know, people earlier in the summer saying, oh, Chelsea are, you know, making moves and stuff like that. There was all sorts of clubs linked with them, but then it transpired it was just sorted with Liverpool. Obviously similar with Florian Wirtz, and, you know, it just feels like this summer Liverpool just had the players that they've got in, it was just sort of all tied down. Like, there was people telling me Kirkus was sorted in March, you know what I mean, Frimpong. It felt like they seem to be good at having these conversations with the players, getting them to agree to come, saying the right things, and then keeping that relationship. I'm not saying that Gay will definitely be happening, but it wouldn't surprise me at all if they've been really good at managing the whole thing and speaking to him and just saying, "Don't worry, we'll sort this. We'll sort this." It's a delay. It's not not happening.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think Liverpool feel just really steady to me as a organisation. I think I read recently that some of the different deals over the course of the summer, you know, some of them Julian Ward would do a bit of work in, some of them it'd be Richard Hughes, some of them Edwards would help out. So they've got like...
It was based on relationships, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Who's got the best relationship with that person?
Yeah, and a lot of it comes down to agents as well. Like when Edwards was sporting director, Liverpool were paying out, I think, the most in the league to agents. And
there was a summer where they didn't sign anyone and we paid agents £10 million and no one really made anything of it. Like, and I was like, hang on. But I was like, I mean, I'm not one to kick up a fuss, do you know what I mean? But I was like, it's interesting that agents are getting so much money here. It's basically, Rabbi is £1 million. I don't want any stories about Mo Salah in the news.
Exactly.
I'm not saying that definitely happened.
No, it's keeping them sweet, isn't it? It's keeping them on side and that. And I don't know who Gay's agent is. I know his dad's heavily involved and all that with what he does and stuff, but Kirkus, for example, I think his dad has come out and said, like, wherever Richard Hughes wants us to go, we will go there. I think he literally said that because he took him to Bournemouth and then took him to Liverpool now. So it is about those relationships, and Liverpool have, you know, painted themselves, in my opinion, as like a proper, just steady champions. You know exactly what you're getting. We've got a plan for you in terms of how to use you. So I think he will probably still end up at Liverpool. And hopefully I'm right.
It's an interesting one, isn't it? I mean, they're on this long unbeaten run, albeit broken up by the summer. They're a tough team to play against. Liverpool have found them quite a tough team to play against. The manager's impressive. You know, play free at the back, which Liverpool have struggled with a little bit, maybe more so than four. And then we've got this situation where there's one striker who can't play and another one who looks like he can't do 90. So how do you think we'll approach it? How would you approach it?
I'm not sure, to be fair. This is a game that I'm a bit wary of. To be honest, I think any time you face Crystal Palace, no one looks forward to it, do. No, everyone. They're kind of like giant killers. I think even if you're Manchester City, and they just have that knack for causing an upset when it comes to the top sides. So over the years as well, I'm talking like dating back to Wilfried Zaha and Andros Townsend scoring screamers and stuff. I think this team now is a bit different, but for the same reason, can cause an upset to a big side. Just really well drilled, and I think their system is quite equipped to deal with Mo Salah because Tyreek Mitchell just doesn't move. Nunes does all run on the opposite side, so Mitchell just sticks to Salah for the whole game. Salah never really gets a kick against Palace, I think. So it is a difficult game this one. It's away from home as well. They've had a free week, and Liverpool haven't. So I think this could be a tricky game, and I was gonna say I'd take a draw. I don't know if I'd take a draw, like, but I wouldn't be surprised if we drew this one.
Yeah, I mean, the beauty of having a 5-point buffer, Jack, is that, you know, if you do drop a couple of points in a tough away game, you know, that's what the lead is for. There's two tricky ones coming up back to back. There's Palace and then Chelsea. They're very different teams. You know, they'll post different challenges, but you know, there's 2 trips to London back to back where you think, well, probably take 4 points now if it was offered you, but if you can start it with a win, then that'd be exceptional. How do you think they go there and win? How would you think they approach it?
It's a difficult one. I say historically we found Palace quite hard to break down at times. It does seem like a place that's really difficult to go with, especially in the situation that Liverpool are in now with Ekitike and with Isaac's fitness and stuff as well. It's just come at a weird time for us to play a team like this as well. It's difficult. I would definitely take a draw. We just spoke about, I think for me, getting the draw, getting Isaac a bit more fitter, getting him ready for maybe the Chelsea match, and maybe Ekitike coming in on that left as well. So yeah, depends how you view it, but I think it is going to be a really tough place to go to.
These are questions, an interesting one, isn't it? Because he's unlikely to do 90, he does 45 and then has a bit of a run at half time the other night. So we'll give him 50.
Good for him,
yeah, we'll give him 50 minutes there. But you'd be shocked if he did 90. You don't really want to take your superstar striker off on 75 if the game's at 0-0 or 1 each, which has been the case in a couple of our games, obviously recently, the Burnley one being an example, especially when you haven't then got the other fella to bring on for him. I thought Dan's look sharp the other night, but it's a big shout to take Isaac off and bring Jayden Dan's on 70 if it is 0-0 or 1 each. But it'd feel a bit mad if you didn't start him, so I don't know, how do you sort of pull all that together in your head?
Yeah, I think you obviously got to start him, haven't you? As you say, you know, probably gets just shy of an hour. I think that the good thing for Liverpool, I mean, if this suspension to Ekitike was to happen, it's good that Keiser's come on and you know, he's got 2 assists the other night, should have got a third, played really well, was really lively. We know he can play all across the front line, and including as a bit of a number 9, so you know, maybe that's an option. He's in a good moment. You know, he spoke after the game the other day and said, you know, last year he wasn't up to kind of the standard of what was required, but now he feels he is, and he can contribute. You know, obviously scored the goal against Bournemouth, but also you can see that Slot trusts him. I think he's played in every game really, hasn't he, in the league more or less. And we just didn't see that last season. So he is a tangible option now. I mean, when we spoke at the start of the season, I didn't think he was, because you just didn't know what to get from him. But I suppose the reason Liverpool kept him, whether it was their choice in the end or whatnot, but the reason he was still at the club is for moments like this when, you know, there isn't the first choice 2 strikers available. So if Isak is, you know, playing in, you know, 55, 60 minutes and it is 0-0, you might have to just ask Keiser to go out there and do something. I'm not saying he's going to score the winner, but he's a busybody, isn't he? And he can make things happen. And that's exactly what they did at Burnley. That's, you know, they didn't play a great game at all really, but especially in the final third, it was quite frustrating. But you know, through, you know, when Frimpong came on, he just offered something different. It was his cross that wins the penalty. So I think just being busy in and around the final third in those kind of tight games, you know, they can give you a moment, whether it be a penalty, a free kick, a set piece, you know, a cross that deflects and you know, lands in a 6-yard box. So I think that probably will be the option. But I wondered how you would have played it before Southampton anyway, because you've got, you know, 3 away games this week, haven't you? And I think it would have been a lot to ask Isak to. It's how do you play it, because obviously Galatasaray to go over there, you know, with the travel that's been involved, and then play. But then do you actually have to do 2 60s in a week? I mean, he said after the game that it wouldn't be until the October international break where Isak would really kind of finish this pre-season he's doing. So he clearly is, you know, looking, his next step after this week is probably 75. But then obviously you've got those 2 huge games either side of Galatasaray. So I think regardless of Ekitike getting sent off, I think it was always going to be a bit of a conundrum of which striker started 2 out of the 3 games. But as I say, the timing of Keiser's performance the other night could be really vital now for Liverpool.
He's got to start him, Isaac?
I think probably, yeah. Although you do wonder, like, you know, around the hour mark, if he does start and he comes off, there's the prospect of it being very flat after that point. We saw that in the last time we faced them actually, in the Community Shield. We took Ekitike off on the hour and it just died. So you could look at it as, like, you know, around the hour mark, what's the worst case scenario? Probably a 0-0 at that point really, and at that point then you can bring Isak on and maybe he wins the game for you or something. So there's different ways of looking at it. Probably a lot of sports science in there that I don't really know so much about. So I don't know. I think he obviously gets a lot of minutes, but it's whether you want him to finish the game for you or start the game for you. It's difficult.
Yeah, especially when Liverpool have been finishing games so well.
I mean, he has got loads of options though. I mean, even last year at City, he played with no striker. He did Jones as the Bosley, kind of the two false nines. So I think Slot has got, you know, a few, not aces I wouldn't call them, but he's got a few plans up his sleeve. And obviously Palace is a team in the 17 game run. Is it 17 games? I think they're unbeaten, isn't it?
Yeah.
To be fair, I think the
double 10's a decent show.
I think he's been looking at ways to get Szoboszlai, McAllister, Gravenberch and Wright on the pitch at the same time. And
this could be it.
Exactly, yeah. But Szoboszlai's been doing it at right back. That can't keep going, especially when you've got two right backs now fit. We saw Wright do a little bit on the left as a sub recently, I think. But this could be a way in which you get all four in the middle of the park. Maybe Gakpo on the left and Salah on the right. A normal right back in place. You know, so there's different options that we can use, like, but in terms of having like a proper 9 for the whole game, you're probably going to have to compensate somewhere where Wright does it for a bit or Chiesa does it for a bit, but Chiesa will score a few, I think, if he gets the shirt.
with the back three as well, it's a good shout to go with a false 9 or a 10, whatever you want to call it, because that creates space for the wide players to come inside and, you know, maybe a bit of fortune that way. But the thing I was going to say is, you know, this 17 game unbeaten run that Palace have been on, you know, Liverpool played them 3 or 4 times, so Slot will have an idea.
Yeah.
You know, obviously they played in the Community Shield earlier this year, obviously played the final game of the season. So, you know, he will have plenty of kind of sample size to look at and work out, you know, what he likes about Palace, how he can maybe get one over on them and stuff. So, you know, I suppose if there was one team to maybe have a bit of a selection headache against, it's one you've played 3 times in about 3 months, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a good shout, isn't it? The best managers work out other teams, and he is one of the best managers. And still the only proper league game he's lost is that Forest one, where I think he admitted afterwards he didn't realise how good they were. Well, he knows how good Palace are, and so he'd be ready for it.
Yeah, definitely. I think before, when you asked me this question, I was going, start Isaac. Talking to you now, I think coming on second half or coming on for the later half of the games historically through this season as well would be a good shout. I think using them 2 10s we just talked about there and getting them midfield to sort it out as well could be a different way of going about it. I think that might be a better way to break down the Palace defence as well and trying to get them earlier goals, and as you say, bringing on Isaac and around 60 minutes or so to really lift the Anfield crowd. Is it Anfield or?
No, we're away.
No, it's away, yeah.
The Anfield crowd watching at home. at the away crowd as well, just to get them up for it if he comes on and scores again in the last minutes. It even just bigs up the whole process, doesn't it, as well?
Yeah, you're in Germany, everything's away for you, isn't
it? I'm using NordVPN.
Would recommend. Fullback. What do you do? What would you do? Any difference?
It's an interesting one. I feel, you know, as Josh said, for kind of all the reasons of playing Palace, I mean, psychologically it always feels like a tough game, so my initial kind of safety thing would be to go with Robertson, but the fact he played on Tuesday night, I mean, Tuesday to Saturday is a bit more manageable, isn't it? So, you know, he could do that, but I think he'll probably... It's difficult, isn't it? Because I feel at the moment you can't really do Frimpong and Kirkes, so you've kind of got to do one of the young fun ones, whether that be Frimpong and Bradley, and then you've got to pair them with a more experienced head, you know, Robertson. So I just don't think you can do Frimpong and Kirkes. So from a fitness point, that probably makes sense to do them, but I don't know if Slot would do that. Especially with Palace, I feel like they're wide players. You know, they can cause a bit of a threat, be quite tricky.
I don't think Frimpong's our best right back, you know. I think it's Bradley. For me, I think Bradley's more of a rounded player. I think Frimpong is suitable to certain match scenarios and if Palace gets to a point where they're just sitting in, then you bring Frimpong on. I think he does.
He did that the other night, didn't he? He brought him on in the front 3.
Yeah, I think he offers a lot of value in situations like that, but I think to start him in this game, I don't think he was particularly good the other night.
No, he didn't play well.
So I would probably go Bradley and Kirkes on the left. But Kirkes has to deal with Munoz, and Munoz just never stops. That'd be like a marathon race, wouldn't it? All day, just literally box to box, the pair of them.
I thought Kirkes, he obviously had a bit of a difficult start, but he has really kicked on, it feels like. I thought against Arsenal, against Madueke, he was really good.
His best games have been at Anfield, though, is what it concerned me with this one. You know, his best games have been Everton and Arsenal and Anfield, and going to Palace, does he have another Burnley, or is he able to?
And Newcastle as well, he dived in quite a lot, didn't he? And you know, I suppose
Newcastle was just mad. I can't.
that
was such a mad game.
When you look at those away games, you think you can't give the home crowd anything to feed off.
Yeah.
So, you know, if you're giving away silly free kicks or, you know, silly corners or silly throw-ins, that's just going to let Palace kind of set up, you know, higher into the pitch and kind of get a feel into the game, where Liverpool really need to start fast here, you know, get an early goal and just settle the home crowd down, really. And I just feel like having mad players like Kirkes probably isn't the best way to do that. So I would go Robertson and Bradley if it was me, but I'm not sure. I can see Slot doing something different.
What do you think, Joe?
I would have went Robertson and Kirkes. Not Robertson and Kirkes, sorry. Bradley and Kirkes. Yeah, just put them both on the same side.
See if anyone notices.
I mean, that'll take care of Munoz, to be fair.
Yeah. No, I would start Bradley and I'd start Kirkes, and I think, as you said then, just to bring on a little bit of cut. Even when Isak comes on, if we are at 0-0, to then bring on Frimpong if you need to change that up a little bit. So then you can even bring on Kirkes if he is struggling for Robertson, because Robertson probably can't do a full game, as we know. So yeah, for me that would be the partnership that I would go with.
Okay, listen, loads more looking ahead to the Palace game across the Anfield Wrap, and so there'll be the Friday show, recorded later, audio show, which is really popular, looking at all the Premier League games. We've got a Tottenham fan in the studio, but we're looking across, but obviously touching on Liverpool in that as well. And then tomorrow, straight after the press conference, Arne Slot's press conference is 9:45, I do believe, so straight after that we'll be doing pre-match warm-up out for audio and video subscribers, recorded right here with Ian Ryan. I assume he's back from holiday. I haven't been asked to do it, so I assume he is doing that, so that'll be tomorrow. And then obviously straight after the game, we'll be doing audio and video reaction to it, hopefully after the Liverpool win, we shall see. But in the meantime, huge thanks to my panel, to the guys for pulling it all together and making this happen, and for you for watching, of course, or listening, however you have been doing it. I'm just staring at the camera. Up the Reds.